Welcome to another edition of Success Talk. This is Dr. Herbert Harris bringing you incredible people, people who have achieved great accomplishments, who've overcome great odds and many obstacles. And today we have my good friend from Wilson, North Carolina, Charlotte Lewis. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the conversation.
Well, I was super impressed by your work, and I love that idea, Center Me House. I know you're going to tell us about it, but sometimes you hear a phrase and it says, yeah, I got that. I got that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little about the work that you do.
Well, I am a self-love coach, and I like to say that I specialize in emotional wellness and stress relief. And so what I started out doing was I was working with one-on-one on a one-on-one basis with clients. And then once I started volunteering at group homes and rehabilitation center for women, I did realize that I really enjoyed a group atmosphere. And so I wanted to see what it would be like to teach self-love in like large groups. And so I started going to universities to teach. I hosted workshops at A&T, Albany State, Arkansas, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. So I've had some experience teaching in universities. And then I also decided that I wanted to start speaking and doing keynotes at different events to bring more awareness to self-love and emotional wellness. And so I delivered my first keynote speech last year. I did another one this year for the AKAs out in Lumberton, the Sigma Iota Omega chapter. Mm-hmm. And so that was amazing. That was fun. I really enjoy it. And so now I'm focusing primarily on building the Center Me House from a virtual sense where we host online classes and workshops to an in-person experience where women will be able to come in and not only benefit from the group sessions that we'll be hosting, which include activities, take-home material, and worksheets, but they'll also be able to practice in real time replenishment and releasing, which could be by way of sweetest massages, yoga sessions, sound baths, bonding with others or with self. And then we also have wellness inspired theme rooms where they'll be able to go in. These Instagrammable rooms where they'll be able to learn more about different concepts, whether it be stillness, whether it be affirmations, whether it be yoni. And so they're just going to have a really good time. And so I'm currently putting all of my energy and all of my efforts into the manifestation of the Center Me House. And so I'm really excited about it.
Wow. Well, when we talk about self-love, that's, we hear a lot about love. When you watch television, everybody says, I love this one. I love that one. I was watching, I think, the Sherry Show, and a particular actor came. He said, I love him. And then this actor, I love her. What's the idea, that sort of the thought behind self-love?
So the thing is, I feel like when I tell people that I'm a self-love coach, their immediate reaction or response is kind of on the defense, really. It's like, oh, well, I love myself. So, you must work with people who don't love themselves. But that's not the case. Self-love is something that is very vast. It is a journey. And so I work with women who are interested in learning more about how they can incorporate self-love in a creative way in their day-to-day lives, not just on the weekends or not just when they reach burnout, but more so, how do I incorporate this journey of learning more about who I am, why I am, where I am, when I am, day to day, and how do I align myself with this, or anchor myself in this knowing of who I am, and align that with the success that I desire. And so for me, like I said before, I specialize in emotional wellness and stress relief because for me, self-love is awareness. And when you are able to regulate yourself on a high level, or, regulate your emotions with mastery, this is going to, and I like to say, permeate beautifully in your external life, because when you learn how to regulate yourself, when you learn how to expand by way of your emotions and learning how to relieve stress in the body,
Mhm.
then that's how you'll take that and you'll apply it to your relationships, you'll apply it to your job, business, or career, you'll apply it to your living space, you'll apply it to your hobbies, you apply it to your purpose. And so that's how, for me, self-love is just so, it's so vast and it's so deep that it would take a lifetime.
Mm.
It would take a lifetime for you to really grasp it, so to speak. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say that I work with women who don't love themselves. I think we all love ourselves to a degree, as best we can. I believe
Mhm.
that we all love ourselves the best we can. And so what I can do is I can come in and I can illuminate for you, the many different ways that you can, love yourself deeper and stronger and with more intention. And so, that's and let me just say this as well. If I were to say what self-love is,
Mhm.
I would have to I would have to speak to the fact that self-love is a journey, but it is this journey for it's a journey for the warrior in you, because you have to learn how to love the parts of you that society, your community, your culture tell you that you shouldn't.
Mm.
And you have to be able to meet all of you with love and with grace and with appreciation every single day. And sometimes that can be hard. And so self love is not for the faint of heart,
Mhm.
it's for the warrior in you. And it's for that person who is wanting to have this deep connection with the divine source within them.
Mm. Yes, yes.
And so, yeah, self-love is just it's a many things. It's a
It's
many,
many.
many things.
Well, as you were talking, as you said, when many people, when they hear that topic, they go like, "Well, that's not me. I love me." But it's funny. A lot of times, in our book, there's a section there on self-image, and there's a how do you know that you have a poor self-image? And most people very rarely say I have a poor self-image, but it gives you some questions, like do you always put the blame on someone else? you know, do you pretend that everything is okay? And so as I was listening to you, people have to discover that they need to expand their ability to love themselves and often discover it as a result of circumstances, of situations. And so I would imagine that it's a very deep, a very personal subject for a person to even acknowledge that they need to expand their love for themselves.
Yeah. And there's so many different ways that people approach it, though. A
Mhm.
lot of times, women, especially women who are, high achievers, they will sometimes approach it like a task on a to-do list.
Mhm.
And the danger with that is, like I said before, it's a journey. It's not something that you can just achieve and
Mhm.
and reach.
Mhm.
it's something that you have to work at on a daily basis. And so yeah, I would say that it does take some people will approach it in a way that they know, they understand that, okay, this is something that I have to, this is an intimate topic. This is something that is going to require me to really be open and honest with myself. And then some people, they don't get that, that reality until something is asked of them that they probably were not,
Yeah,
expecting, because they were more so looking at it from the
yeah, yeah.
perspective of, let me just say, let me just make sure I'm coming into this to make sure that I love myself,
Uh-huh.
not to discover the many ways that I can.
Yeah.
And so the learning curve is different.
Well, the the word love itself, the Eskimos, I think, have 52 ways of discussing snow. Yeah, and so like there's a hard snow that you can build an igloo from. There's a powdery snow that is easy to melt in your mouth if you're thirsty. You know, there's snow that has stuff in it that you don't want to eat or don't want to taste. And in English, in our language, and even in American culture, I find that people lack an understanding of the totality of love. So many young people think of love as like physical stuff, sex, that's love. But then as you get older, love may be just attention, you know, someone who just takes the time. Love may be just maybe patience. With children, sometimes love is spelled Time, time. So
Mhm.
so you have a massive you know, like wheelhouse. It's really I think there are a lot of people, not just women, but women and men, but there are a lot of people that need to hear what you are sharing because the greater our capacity to love ourselves, the greater our capacity to love others.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, like love is infinite. And so because of its unconditional nature, it's like it challenges you to invite it in spaces that are, typically not where you would see love.
Mhm.
Right. And so that's how I try to explain it to my kids. Like, if you're angry, it's okay. But what does the anger look like when you meet it with love? What can love do to anger? How does it transmute it into
Mhm.
more love? And so I feel like love really just challenges us to find more creative ways to allow it to do what it is, and that is expansion.
Mhm.
And so when we don't put any conditions or restrictions on love, then we will expand, we will grow, we will learn more about ourselves. And you're absolutely right. We can only love each other to the degree that we love ourselves. But I'm very confident in that we're all only loving ourselves the very best that we can with what
Mm.
we've learned. And so sometimes what we think is love, when you were speaking on the physical aspect of it, it's all of these different perspectives are learned, um you know learned behaviors or learned perspectives of love, whereas love is natural. It's a natural thing that if we just allow it to be what it's supposed to be, what it is, then we will expand in the way that we view love.
Mm.
But I
You
don't
know,
think that, yeah, I think that the physical, the attention, the patience, all of these things you can say, are a part of love,
mhm.
but where does love end? Where does it begin? It's
Mm.
it's something that it's just It's infinite. So I don't try to, like I said, my goal is to help expand um my clients' perspective of how they can love themselves and the different ways they can see themselves loving themselves in that way. Because that's as long as I can do that, then I know that I can guarantee in this line of work that your life is going to expand in a beautiful way,
Mm-hmm.
because when you learn to love yourself, in every way possible, your relationships improve, the way that you approach your purpose, the way that you view abundance and success, and how you use, self-preservation becomes a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in that, all of you are using your energy for what is going to serve you, and whatever serves you is going to serve everyone around you, i.e. the human species. And so, um I love what I do for that reason, because I know that once I have planted that seed and, asked those questions, those purpose questions, I know that with if on the right soil, this is something that is going to transform this person's life for sure.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep. Well, this is such a topic that very few people, I think, are really, I've interviewed a lot of people, and a self-love coach, you're the first self-love coach and that I've interviewed. And, as you're talking, I had this vision of love being like water. And whatever container you put the water in, the water takes the shape of that container. And so then the ability to love yourself is like the container into which you put this vibration of love. And so as a child, you may understand it one way. As a person who's experienced all kinds of different things in their lives, you may understand it another way. As a person who's never, it's like I said, never been off the porch. There's an African proverb that says that the man who's never left home thinks his mother's the best cook. You know. So yeah. So Charlotte, tell us a little. Where'd you grow up? A little about your background, your family, your early years.
Yeah, so I was born in Fort Pierce, Florida. My mom was 15 when I was born, and I had an older brother, and I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And my mom and dad, they were always like, back and forth, want to be together, don't want to be together. So we traveled back and forth from Florida to North Carolina a lot. I went to 7 different elementary schools. And
Mhm.
so, um, as far as my childhood goes, I mean, I consider myself a really happy child, but I was as happy as, any child that was in, a turbulent environment. And I experienced sexual abuse as a child. So I was I was conditioned, and I believe this was just as a, protector persona that I guess evolved within me as a result of the turbulence and the trauma that I experienced, that I would always compartmentalize my emotions. And so growing up, because I wasn't really sure how to express my emotions and process them in a healthy way, um, I grew up with a lot of anger, um, and I've always been very talkative. That I can say, I've I've always been a talking little somebody. But I always wanted to please people too, because that was another way that I found that I could survive the environment that I was in, was just either just, being helpful or just not being, around or seen. And so I would say that all through my school years, I was always, trying to be the funny kid, trying to make everybody happy with me. And so whenever I would get upset, it would just be this, I would not have any control. And this didn't really start happening until college when I went to school with my high school sweetheart. And when we went to college, you're 18 and this is your first time having, real freedom, I guess. Um, and so our relationship began to be abusive and toxic. And so that's when my anger really started to get out of control. And and I can say too that, insecurity was a big part of my childhood and teenage years too, because I that was the first but not the last of the abusive relationships that I've been in. And so whenever I dropped out of school, I was a math major in school. I was a math major because that's something that I was just naturally good at. I wasn't really
Mhm.
passionate about it,
Uh-huh.
but but I was just good at it. My brothers are the same way. They're I'm an engineer. My brother is a PhD in engineering, and then my younger brother, he's in IT. And so we've always been really good with science and math, but I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, but I was terrible at tutoring math students, and so I was like, this is probably not my call.
Yeah.
So and then it was just like I had a professor tell me I actually came to him to ask for help because I was trying to build a youth program for girls. I wanted to help girls who, grew up the way that I did and wanted to show them some love because I, wanted that for myself. And so I've always had a heart for helping and being in the community. But he looked at my grades, and my math classes were the only ones that were, showing promise.
Yes.
And he told me that I wasn't qualified to be a mentor of any kind, and so it made it easier to drop out when he said that. Um, and so I moved to Charlotte after that to go to hair school because I
Mhm.
did hair. And that was how I made money in school. And
Mhm.
I worked, I've been working since I was 14. I've always had a job, but on the side, I would do hair.
Mhm.
Um, and so I moved there to go to cosmetology school. Next thing you know, it just wasn't cutting because, like I said, I've been working since I was 14. And when you're in
Mhm.
cosmetology school, it's hard to have a job and go to hair school at the same time.
Uh-huh.
I was working overnight, so I was just like, no, we're not gonna do this. So I dropped out of hair school and I got a job at a financial institution. There, I got licensed as a financial investment advisor and I had my first son, um, my first child. He's my only son, and then that was really what started the last abusive relationship that I was in. And
Mhm.
so about 8 years after that and a daughter later, I decided that I wanted something more for my life. And I knew that I was bright. I knew that I was smart. I knew that, whatever I put my mind to, I could do it.
Yeah.
But I needed to fix what was continuing to attract these abusive men in my life. And so uh, I had a breakdown during my pregnancy with my daughter, and that was when I first started therapy. And so from then on, my therapist, she actually asked me a question in my first session that changed my life. She asked me if I was connected to my emotions. And I was just like, well, I'm the only one in here. How is it even possible to not be connected to them? And but that was when I realized after because I started researching and started studying and
Mhm.
and that's when I realized that you can you can exist in this world and not be connected to who you are, not be connected to what you feel, and just constantly compartmentalizing and creating this disconnect between your mind and the rest of your body. And so I think that that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about emotional wellness, because the body is this abundance of intelligence. And if we depend on our mind solely, for intelligence, then we are missing out tremendously on what we can do, not with just ourselves and the capacity to know more about who we are, but in the way that we show up in the world. And so I started therapy. I left for the final time in that relationship, and that's where my journey really began. And so I started doing a bunch of studying and reading. I think in 2021, I read 26 books that year.
Mm.
And on like self-development, spirituality, mindfulness, all of Eckhart Tolle's work.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
a big fan. And and then that's when I started wanting to kind of put everything into use. I wanted to see, call their bluff. Like, does this stuff really work?
yes,
And I knew when I was pregnant with my son that I was going to be a speaker. I knew that that's what God had for me. I did not accept that at the time, because when I saw that, I was just like, no, I'm not doing that.
mm-hmm.
And so there was this resistance to my purpose. And so once I started my self-love journey, that's when the alignment with my purpose started to come to unfold. And then I started challenging myself to teach what I knew I could teach, and that was
Yeah,
self-love. So
yeah. Wow. Well,
I tried
Sally,
to sum everything up as much as
yeah. No,
possible.
I'm with, I got it. I got it. I mean, so many times women particularly, but sometimes men will find themselves in that situation, that abusive situation, but they never make that breakthrough. That what was it that gave you the strength to make that breakthrough? That finally, at that point, draw that line in the sand and make that break from that particular reality, that particular experience.
um, I wish I could say that it was myself, but it wasn't. Um, I wanted better for my daughter, and I knew that I could tell her till my face turned blue not to be with an abusive man and to value herself. But if she didn't see that, if she didn't see it, and how was she going to learn it? I grew up not being able to see that. And it's important that you see it. Some of us need to see it. So, some of us don't have to. They'll just, that's not my life. I'm not going to do that. But and I said that when I was in high school. I'm like, I'm not gonna be like my mom, because I don't like the way she let these men treat her, and I'm not gonna be like that. But I ended up doing just that. And I think it's just because that's all that I knew. I didn't know what it was like. I'd never even seen a man treat a woman with respect before. I'd never seen a man treat a woman like a goddess, like with love, unconditionally. And my father left when I was 6. So I had literally I hadn't seen him but like 2 or 3 times before I turned 18.
Mhm.
And so for me, I knew how powerful it was to be able to see it.
Mhm.
And I wanted my daughter to be able to see it.
Mm, that's powerful. That's really powerful. One thing you said, and it's curious that this particular person who had advised you when you told them what you wanted to do as a mentor, and they told you that you didn't have what it takes. I have a curious question. Were they white or black?
It was a black man.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Interesting.
He looked at my grades and he was just like, "You're not qualified to be out here with these girls." And I was just like, "Okay."
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
that did something to me because I thought, my whole life, I knew when I was 6 years old that I wanted to be a teacher.
Uh-huh.
I knew that. And some people don't know that, but I knew that. And when he told me that, it made me feel like, okay, this whole time I was wrong.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, you know, there was a lot of imposter syndrome that I had to conquer to get to where I am right now.
Mm.
Because I've been told that I wasn't qualified, I wasn't enough in
Mm.
so many ways all my life. And so, and specifically with the teaching, you know, it was, if I had to describe what it's like to try to convince yourself what the truth is when you've been lied to your whole life, I would say that you have to be so open with yourself and you have to really trust yourself to be able to accept your truth.
Ooh.
And I've worked very hard. I've done the work to trust myself enough to put one foot in front of the other and to know that everything is happening for my highest good.
Ooh. Now that's the realization.
Mhm.
That's the one that I see so often that helps pull us through.
Yeah.
That when our environment, when our situation and our experiences don't match up to our purpose, you know, when they don't match up
Mhm.
to our purpose, and then no, I love that they say faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. Where around you, there's absolutely nothing that says you're going to become the person that you are destined to be. There's no proof, there's
Mhm.
no evidence, and yet you're able to see beyond that reality to the next one, and that's that faith that it literally can pull you right through it, and I could see it.
Yeah. That's we all have we all have this, you can call it whatever you want to call it, love, divine source, God. We all have it because it is all of us. You just have to believe it. And belief is so powerful because whatever you put your belief in, that's what you give life to.
Mm,
Whether it's going to, be in whether it's going to be beneficial to you or not, whatever you put your belief into,
mm,
that's what you give life to, and that's how powerful you are.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That you can believe in something
Yes,
and it happens.
it happens. As you were talking, I had this vision of a spiritual umbilical cord. That there's a spiritual connection between us, between you, between I and our source.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's a cord that's never cut. Because as long as we have that spiritual umbilical cord to our source, then it's like the prodigal son. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the prodigal son goes out into the far country and parties his money away, lost everything, went through all kinds of hardship, and ends up in the pig pen of life. And then he says, I will arise and go to my father. And that's that spiritual umbilical cord. It's always there, but you have to see it.
But that's how creation is, right? Like there's this fail safe where creation, God, ancestor, however you want to describe it, it is expansion. All it knows is expansion. All it knows is creation. All it knows is expression
Mhm.
because it's supposed to evolve.
Mhm.
And so, because of that, whatever decisions you make in your life, however the cards are dealt for you in your life, that is exactly what is required for you specifically, to get to where you know yourself, to where you become more aware, to where you are aware of yourself.
Mm. Mm.
Because once you become aware of yourself, you're tapped in.
Mhm.
You're tapped in. And so I don't regret any of the decisions that I've made, the things that I have experienced in my life, because these were all of the necessary components, ingredients, if you will, to get me where I am right now. And I'm still going through these, or allowing these experiences to flow through me so that I can continue to expand, so that I can continue to evolve. And that's what you want. That's what you want. And that's why I don't like, like labeling things or labeling people, because we're all going through this journey.
Mhm.
And so, and because I skimmed your book, because I'm
Mhm.
very intentional about the way that, what I ingest.
Mhm.
And I was skimming through it, and I saw that you had put that there were four types of people.
Mhm.
And I would like to, I would like to challenge that idea
Mhm.
that if there is four types of people in the world, whether they be the wanderer, the wanderer,
Mhm.
the watcher, or the player,
Mhm.
is it possible that this one person can be all four of these different people in the journey of their life, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there was a statement there that sometimes the watcher, it's like when you go to I was watching the championship basketball game, but in the stands were people who were not basketball players, but they were champions in another game. and uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think the beauty of life is that all four of those stages, we go through them at different times. There are times when in our consciousness, we are absolute wanderers. We don't know where we're going. We don't know where we've been. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. And I think
Okay.
half of that self-awareness is to recognize, it's like one day, like you are lost and you don't have a clue. And that's a part of that surrender, that as you say, every experience that you go through is like creating this great masterpiece. Every experience is a stroke from the hand of God. When you look at the Mona Lisa and people look at her eyes and they would look and they say, like, what was she thinking? Whoever this woman was that sat for that painting, there's like joy in her eyes. But if you look at it from another angle, the lighting is different. There's sadness there. You look at it from another angle and there's like a softness, a compassion there. And so we go through all those different stages, at different times in our lives. And I think that's really, as you said, life is always about expansion. It's like and think about it, the universe expands. It's like when we talk about Einstein and cosmology, said, what is the universe is constantly expanding. So what does that say? Number one, where to and where from?
Mm-hmm.
And and the
Mm-hmm.
essence is really doesn't matter where it's from. Doesn't matter. It's the essence of expansion because in the expansion comes the understanding of that who you are.
Yeah. And I would say too that it's healthy to be
Yeah.
a wanderer. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
healthy to find yourself wandering,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you never know where you might find yourself, literally, figuratively, metaphorically, like you never know.
Yeah.
And it may be exactly because I don't believe in, mistakes. I think everything is by design.
Yes.
So, or it could be that this is a part of your life that is humbling you
Yes.
because you don't
Yes.
know
Yes.
because you're in new waters.
Yes. Yes.
And so yeah, that was something I thought was interesting that I
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes people look at stuff like that and they'll say, well, this is me. I'm this person or I'm this person.
Yeah.
And really it's just like, open
Yeah.
yourself up and
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
up yourself to be all things and no
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Open up yourself to be the beginning and the end. Open up yourself to be the ripple and the ocean
Woo.
and just see, what happens.
I think it was Cahill Gibran. He said when he meditated on a dewdrop, he understood the essence of the ocean.
Mm.
Yeah. I tell you, Charlotte, as we go forth, if you look back on your life, you have evolved to this point now. If you look back to the young lady in college, the young lady who said you don't have what it takes, if you look back now, what advice would you give that younger self, that person coming out of the gate, that person starting in the game?
I love that question. Um, keep keep your imagination strong. Believe in yourself and believe that whatever it is that you want, whoever it is that you want to be, you can do that. You
Mm,
can be there.
mm.
And just continue to love with all of your little heart because I know that's what you're going to do anyway. And I'm so proud of you for not allowing anything or anyone keep you from that. There was a time in my life I can remember, like yesterday, I was at work. I went to the bathroom. I was in the bathroom stall, and I said, "God, I don't understand why you gave me a heart like this because all I do is keep getting hurt."
Mm.
And so I would tell her that I'm just so proud of her for not allowing all of the trauma and the heartache and the abuse and the toxicity to keep her from loving so openly and so purely, not wanting anything in exchange, not wanting anything in return. And I'm just so proud of the younger version of myself for that. She is why I'm here because she's really the strong one.
Mm.
She's the only reason that I am here. And so all I can do is, honor her by continuing to love with all of my might.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Now I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum. Now look at this journey now that you're on. You have achieved such a level of clarity. You know, everything that we see was always there. It's just that our level of consciousness gives us the facility to see it.
Absolutely.
And if you look down the line now, 25 years, where you want to be when Center My House is a reality, when it becomes a refuge like an oasis in this crazy world we're in. We look at all the negativity and all the discord and all the, this people hating each other, people disliking each other, people hurting each other. But you look back 25 years on from the front porch of the Center Me house. What advice would you give your current self to keep you moving forward?
So there's this practice that I have just begun, and it is to practice presence in a way that allows me to be aware of the past and the future at the same time, if that makes sense. And so, in order to practice this, I speak as if it's happening right now, because it is. It has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
I have physically not gotten to that time and space yet, but it's already happened, because the only real thing is now, the now moment, right? And so I already know that 25 years from this moment in time, that the Center Me House is in multiple different cities all over the United States. It's in Mexico, it's in Nigeria, it's in Kenya, it's in Ghana, it's in Ireland, it's in France. And it has revolutionized emotional wellness and wellness as a whole. It has introduced technology in a way that serves humanity.
Mm.
And it is a self-love rehabilitation space for those who, one, are regularly, making sure that they are in tune and in alignment with themselves, and then also for those who are ready to start and embrace this journey of self-love. And it's necessary. The Center Me House is partnered up with other corporations, other organizations that target the well-being of children.
Mm-hmm.
The Center Me House has made an impact on our education system, because now we are teaching emotional wellness from kindergarten all the way up through grade school. And because of that, the next generation and the generation after that are expanding and evolving at an expedited rate, because we are encouraging and nurturing the love of self. And when you love yourself, you are more in alignment with your gifts and talents, and you are genuinely eager to use those gifts and talents to serve yourself. And serving yourself is serving humanity. And so the Center Me House is funding organizations that are working directly with children in orphanages, rehabilitating, restructuring them, making sure that they have halls specific to, STEM, agriculture, arts, whatever it is that we can help, allow this next generation of human beings to align with their purpose and their gifts and talents, and give them the space, which is the best thing we can give each other, and give them the space to expand and evolve and to be all that they want to be, all that they desire to be. And so the Center Me House is not just for in 25 years, it's not just for women, but it's for all of humanity, and helping to shape the way that we not only view ourselves, but how to regulate ourselves, how to learn who we are, and then allow that love to be expressed in a way that helps the natural sciences as well. We start taking care of the earth. We start taking care of this huge celestial body that gave birth to us. And because of that, that's when we really start to see humanity evolve. That's when we start to see humanity really do what we were purposed to do. And so the Center Me House is the catalyst for that great change.
Mm. Woo! I saw it. I was watching, you know, when you have the what's it called eyes upper left as you were talking. As you were talking. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That that's a space where you can connect. Isn't it interesting? Where you can connect directly with that vision. And it was just so beautiful watching it. Like,
Thank
whoa, that's like the principle in action.
you.
Man, Charlotte. Um, this has been interesting. I mean, one of the most fascinating interviews because I love seeing a person who is tapped into, you know, uh, when you talk about self-love, it's unfortunately words are so limited and words are so often based on the person's consciousness who's
Yes,
understanding the word. They don't
exactly.
yeah, they don't necessarily are not necessarily able to see it beyond where they are. you know. And
Right.
so I say to you that you are on a journey now that I think is going to, well, I know is going to transform not just you, but a lot of people because you could not get here except by the journey that you had. This is not where you are right now, is not a place you can read up on. Okay. Yeah, yeah, you can't read up on this place. You gotta be there. You gotta do it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Is there a website where people can learn more about your programs and what you're doing?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Centerme.com. Senterme.com.
SEN?
Hmm.
Okay, it's not CEN.
No, so I was torn in between since SENSE and center. And so I traded out the C in center for the S in sense. And
Uh-huh.
so I'm I want you to center yourself while having a sense of yourself. So it's the center me out.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That you just took it to a whole nother dimension now. That's fair. I mean,
I don't get to tell people that often,
yeah,
they
yeah,
think it's just like it's me being cute, but no, I was
yeah, yeah,
intentional about
yeah. Wow. Okay. Send to me
it.
SENTERME.com. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Well, Charlotte, I think you have laid a groundwork that's going to heal a lot of people.
Thank
And a,
you.
and a lot of that healing just comes from watching you and seeing you because you are so much more than your words. Everything, the motion, the image, all of that conveys the message, the sincerity and the power of the message. And so thank you so much for being you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for that vision because that vision is so needed. It's like it's like the universe says this child must be born. Okay. So any
And
final, yeah.
I mean, it's, I can feel my vibrations shifting when you say that because this is what I've seen, since I was a little girl. This is what I've seen. And so being able, when I talk about the details, people always, sometimes people get overwhelmed with it because
Mhm.
I know the details so well. But you got
Yes.
to understand, like, this is something that I saw all throughout my childhood. And then when I did lose it for that time being, and it came back to me, I was scared.
Mm.
So but I knew I'm trying to make Sulu, which is my childhood nickname.
Uh-huh.
I'm striving to make her proud because she knew this whole time that this is what this was going to be.
Hmm. Well, I thank you for the book. I think the book will help you on your journey. It
Yeah, I'm
was,
excited to read it.
yeah, it was one of those books that, was written in the journey. Like, you know, sometimes people say, "Man, I sat down and wrote a book." Like, no, I lived the book and then wrote it. Okay. So,
Right.
yes, yeah. And it's time also for your book, the journey.
I just released a free guide, my practical guide to living emotionally well, how to keep it real.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me. And it teaches the keep it real process of how do you, connect with and process your emotions, explore them,
Uh-huh.
adjust them. And this was my this was like a, I don't know what's the word, but it
It's like
allowed me to see
yeah,
it allowed me to see like, okay, so the how to keep it real book has to follow
yeah,
this guide. Like I have
yeah,
to do how to
yeah,
keep it real book.
yeah,
And so I started working on that, and I don't know. I don't know if I want it to be more of an educational or if I wanted it to be like a reflection, like a self-reflection thing, or I'm not really sure, but I do know that I am going to include some pages from my personal diary in
yeah,
it, just to kind of to show, where I was in different stages of my life. And I actually just posted a video in my stories on Instagram of one of my journals that I'm about to complete. It's my fourth one, and it spans over about a year. And I'm a very big advocate for journaling,
yeah.
when it comes to expressing. But yeah, I'm definitely writing a how to keep it real book. So
Well, you just, we need to do a whole nother topic on that, but journaling seems to be a powerful tool to help you get through the weeds of life.
mhm, it is. It
Hmm.
is. It is for those who enjoy writing.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it works the same way for the person who, draws, and for
Yeah.
the person who paints
Yes.
and uses their hands for other things. And so, but for me, writing is definitely my go-to. Second to meditation, writing, I do it almost every day.
When did you first start meditating?
I started meditating seriously two and a half years ago.
Hmm.
Um, and I meditate daily. And I recently, and I think it's just because of the journey that I'm where I am in my journey right now, I've been meditating multiple times a day.
Hmm.
And I feel like I have to, because especially when I'm getting into like the work, um, running, like building a business and doing the marketing and the strategic planning and all of that, like that's taking me out of my element for
Hmm.
sure. Like I'm a
Hmm.
self-love coach. I
Hmm.
want to have these conversations.
Hmm.
But because of that, I have to meditate, 2 and 3 times now, because I have to, when you get turned on, when you get into that zone, especially when you're, being pushed by something that's greater than you. For me, I can't go to sleep with my mind still going. And
Hmm.
so I have to meditate before I go to bed. I meditate before I get up in the morning.
Hmm.
And if I have to, I'll do a short meditation before I go pick up my kids.
Hmm.
I just, that's just my way of just anchoring myself and grounding myself. And so, and then also just bringing clarity into what's next. And if
Mm.
there's anything that I may have missed from something that was brought to me. So, um, yeah, I meditate. I love meditation. I think that if you if you don't meditate, then how can you familiarize yourself with stillness?
Ooh,
You know,
there's no way to get to it.
yeah, you have to. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
some people say too, and I believe this as well. When you pray, you talk to God, and when you meditate, you listen.
hmm
And
When you pray, you talk to God. When you meditate, you listen. Powerful. I tell you, though, what was it 26 books you read that year? Was it
oh yeah,
26? Yeah,
changed my life.
yeah. Well, for those that's what it takes. The journey, it's called a journey because it is work. It's
Yes,
activity. You know, it's
I'm
not a,
trying to tell
yeah, it's
you.
not a pleasure cruise. This is a journey. And and it's always up. It's always up the mountain. It's always climbing and expanding. And so I just thank you so much. I appreciate your growth. I know that the world will see it. I know that when we share this interview, I can feel the healing vibrations coming out. And
Thank you
so
so much.
and so
Thank you.
Charlotte, thank you for being any final words before we wrap up because you're like a well, every time you something comes out of that well and like, whoa, there's some more. Any final words that you'd like to share with the world, with people, with with that lady, that younger you, that older you, that person who doesn't even know that they are you?
Yes, I would just like to say this, and I say this at the end of every podcast interview that I do. Just remember that wellness is your birthright. It is not something that you have to earn. It is not something that you have to build up to. It is yours. Your first breath was evidence, was proof that you are worthy. And self-love is true freedom. Call my bluff. Call my bluff. Whatever is it that you have to lose? What is it that you have to lose by just saying, you know what, I'm gonna challenge what she's saying. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see if she's for real. That's what I did.
Mhm.
Self-love is true freedom. If you want to exist free, learn to love yourself in the many ways that you can. So that's all that I want for you. Understand two very important truths. Wellness is your birthright, and self love is true freedom.
Wellness is your birthright, and self-love is true freedom. Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for this fantastic interview.
Thank you.
For our
I
listeners and
Richard.
those who watch this program, we often say, get a pad and get a pen. I think it sort of defies the pad and pen. I think when you watch and you listen to this interview, just be open. Just let the vibrations come inside you and be like that beautiful vase, a vase, and let and let the vibrations just come in and feel you and touch those parts of you that need touching. Many parts that you didn't even know were there will be
Yeah.
harmonized and vibrated through this message. So, folks, remember this. You can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have anything you desire, always knowing that the best is yet to come. And so it is. This has been Dr. Herbert Harris with another Success Talk that was recorded just for you.